By the time I was like 21 years old, I was making more money than both my parents. The moment I left Wall Street, within 3 months, I lost everything. I had a mask because I wanted to hide who I really was. I was always chasing money because that's what I thought made me worthy. My first check on Wall Street, I got a signing bonus. I bought a Prada bag before I got an apartment. I needed that to validate my self-worth because I didn't think I was good enough. If you're always chasing money, you're always going to find somebody that has more of it. You're naturally losing 3% just because of inflation to put that money to work. I deserve to be the client on the other end of the table. What good is it if we're teaching you how to invest, but you don't feel deserving of it?
If there were 3 assets that you would say everyone should have in their portfolio, what would be your top 3 investments?
Wealthy people always have.
I hope you guys are excited to get into this episode. Don't forget, if you would like to purchase an investment property in Dubai, make sure to fill out the form below and book a free consultation with me.
Welcome to the Building Wealth with No Borders podcast with me, Lamide Elizabeth, where I'll be bringing you guests from around the world to share their strategies on building wealth. And today we are in Atlanta with former Wall Street banker and the CEO and founder of Empify, Ashley Fox. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So I will let you do a little bit of an intro to yourself to our guests.
So my name is Ashley M. Fox. I'm the CEO and founder of Empify. We are a fintech startup that's revolutionizing how adults and children learn how to build wealth. So think about all the things the school system did not teach you about money. Empify is like the Netflix of finance, where adults and children have access to financial tools all around the world, from learning how to invest in the stock market to properly passing it down to your family. Went to Howard University from Philadelphia originally, but my goal was to financially empower the 99% that Wall Street often overlooks.
I'm so excited to get into this conversation. One of our guests, who's like our most viewed guest on the podcast, so when we had her, a lot of Americans were commenting like, oh my God, her story is really similar to Ashley Fox. They just kept mentioning, I was like, who is that? That's why I was like, when I get the chance to come to America, I have to get you on the podcast to just get a little bit more about your story and what you think in relation to building wealth. So I'm excited to get into this conversation, but I always like to understand a little bit more about our guests and how they grew up in relation to just maybe, I wouldn't say wealth, but maybe money, some of the things that were going on as you were growing up, because I find that later informs sometimes how they behave. So if you could just let us know a little bit more about you and how you grew up, that would be great.
So I grew up in a 2-parent household, first person in my family to go to college. By the time I was like 21 years old, I was making more money than both my parents. But growing up, we didn't struggle. We were, I would say, pretty much middle class. I was an athlete. I loved math and I loved business. And I knew I was going to be this profound woman on Wall Street. So I never wanted to run a business. Entrepreneurship wasn't even sexy at that point in my life. But I always wanted to be on Wall Street. So I went to Howard University, 4 internships at Howard, realized that I need to be in New York City, the financial capital of the world. And I landed my dream job working for one of the largest banks in the world, helping rich people stay rich. So if you had at least $25 million or more, it was our job to invest your wealth, protect it, preserve it, and make sure that you could properly pass it down. It was a great experience. I think being on Wall Street really exposed me to what was possible, considering I'm making more money than my parents. I'm the first college graduate. I wasn't really around a bunch of wealth until I saw it on Wall Street. And that's when I realized, 1, I deserve to be the client on the other end of the table. And also that's something that we use every single day of our life. It is not taught in our school system. And you shouldn't have to major in finance, work on Wall Street to get exposed to that information. And so after some time working on Wall Street, I realized that I wanted to be the one to financially empower the world, to translate that Wall Street knowledge and bring it to people who might not have ever had the opportunity to be in the seats of the rooms that I've been in. And so I left Wall Street with the intention, again, to give the world the financial education that they deserve, that they may not know where to get it, and to create something that the world can't live without, but something that can change the entire world. So I can honestly say I drifted into entrepreneurship. I left Wall Street not because I wanted to be my own boss or because I wanted to make my own money. I just felt like there was something inside of me that I couldn't get out. And it was me, Ashley Marie Fox, who was going to give her love, her energy, her education, and her experience to the people who may not have gotten the opportunities that I got exposed to.
I love that. What was it when you were growing up that made you say, I want to be on Wall Street? Like, did you watch, I remember watching Olivia Pope, and I didn't know, I don't think that job description existed in the UK, but I was like, I want to wear the suits. I want to work in these swanky offices and stuff. So it was TV for me, I guess. What was it for you that made you think, I want to be on Wall Street?
That's a great question. I know it was the suits. So it must have been TV, because my parents didn't wear suits to work. So I guess it was TV, but I also associated a lot of success with business suits money and Wall Street. And if you want to make the most money, why not work in the financial capital of the world? But what really got me is when I went to Howard. So I went to visit Howard 1 to 2 years before I actually signed up to actually go to Howard. And on Mondays and Wednesdays, I think, you had to wear suits, black and blue suits. They taught you how to eat, how to get dressed, how to do your resume. And it was, you knew the School of Business students at Howard because they had their black or blue suits on. And I knew that that was the energy, the vibe that I wanted. And I knew that a lot of companies recruited at Howard. So in my mind, if I'm going to go to a black school, I want to go to one of the best black schools who have the best companies recruiting at that school. And so I think it was a culmination of Howard, a culmination of TV, a culmination of just black women in suits just look really chic, having the desire to be rich and have a lot of money. So I think all of those things is what brought me to Wall Street. And it's interesting because all of those things are also the reason why I decided to leave Wall Street, because what I was chasing was an idea of what happiness, of what money looked like. And I realized if you're always chasing money, you're always going to find somebody that has more of it. Therefore, it's a never-ending race. And deep down, nobody knows this. I always wanted to be a teacher. But I didn't become a teacher because teachers didn't make Wall Street money. And so I figured if I was going to be in college for 4 years, I need to get one of the highest paying jobs out of school. And so that's literally what I was chasing. So I think I like the idea of what I thought success was, not from a fulfilling standpoint, but from a financial standpoint.
That's so interesting. So tell me a little bit more about your time in banking. Like, what did that teach you in asset management, investment banking? What did that teach you? And when did the curtains start, like, falling apart in terms of, because I think I was the same as you. Like, I also worked at JP Morgan, and I was like, my goal at the time when I was like 16 was like, I'm going to just work my way up and be as senior as I can. And once I do that, that would be my I made it moment. But for me, the wall, I guess, over my eyes dropped very, very quickly. So what was that for you?
So I guess I was going to try to make my way through JP Morgan. It's just hard to do that when you're in the bank accounts of billionaires. So when I thought about my salary, the trajectory of the compensation I would have got at the bank, it was like I would have, even in 10 years, I would have never been the clients that I served. And so I'm the person on the floor looking at where they investing their money, what are they doing, where are they trying. Like, I literally saw everything. And parts of me felt like I deserved to be the client. But even if I stayed in my job for 10 years, I wasn't on track to be the client. And so I spent more time learning how they built their wealth versus figuring out the best way to help them keep it. And I think for me, there was this point in time where I was speaking to a really good friend of mine, and he told me to look out the window. So at this point, I'm overlooking Park Avenue, and he's like, look out the window. How do you feel? And I'm like, I feel trapped. So then he said, okay, I want you to close your eyes and envision that this building is yours. Now, how do you feel? And I said, I feel like I'm on top of the world. And it was that moment, it did something to me. And so I did that exact same exercise with one of my colleagues. I was like, look out the window. How do you feel? He's like, I feel regular. I said, no, look out the window. How do you feel? He's like, I feel regular. And I said, and that's when I realized I was different. That's when I realized I wasn't here to keep rich people rich. I was here to show the world how they could be the Wall Street client. And I don't know what that day did to me, but it was in that moment that I was sitting here and I'm like, everyone is so excited and we're looking up and we're chasing these people who have all this money. But does anybody feel like they deserve to be the client? Like, what does it look like if I sat at the other end of the table? And so as I started to realize the trajectory of what I thought my life would be, it wasn't the same as the trajectory of the clients that I was serving because I wasn't on track. And mind you, 25 million was the minimum. I've been in bank accounts of billionaires. Their whole family was billionaires. So it's like, because I saw it, I knew it was possible, but I knew that I was not on track to be that client. So at that moment, I didn't know what it was going to be, but I knew that I just wasn't excited to be on Wall Street. Like, I didn't want to stay late. I didn't want to go above and beyond just like I did at Howard to get that position. And I wasn't used to that. So for me, I'm going to do everything I can to get into Howard. I'm going to do everything I can to get all the internships. But why wasn't I doing everything I could to be the best on Wall Street? And I didn't know that it was because I didn't really want to be there. And also, too, I hit the goal. Like, get on Wall Street. You know, I got the fancy job. I started to make the money. But after a while, it just wasn't fulfilling. And I learned just even now, years later, I chase and look for the fulfillment. Once the fulfillment is gone, it's not fun anymore. So then I create some big old audacious goal and I figure out and go through the ups and downs to accomplish that. And then I want to achieve something more. So I think my Wall Street dream was satisfied, but I wanted to be the one who created the wealth versus helping individuals protect theirs.
I love it. So when you were looking into those accounts, what was it that you saw that made you realize my current path is not going to get me there?
The first thing is wealthy people have multiple accounts and they title all of them. So like it would say such and such school account. Like there were titles to it. It wasn't just like a basic account number. And even when we put together their account summary, we would title them as well. In my mind, I'm seeing they have different accounts for different purposes. I had one checking, one saving. Maybe I should align my accounts with the goals that I have. The other thing I saw too is when our clients would have cash, let's say they got, they just deposited cash in their account. It was our job to go and work with investors to put that money to work. So like when I say we got to give our money a job description, it wasn't something that I made up. It was the standard of what we did with every client. Because if you're a multi-millionaire, billionaire, your money's sitting in cash, you're naturally losing 3% just because of inflation. So I started to do what we did for our clients for myself. So every day I'm sitting in morning meetings and they're talking about stocks and different opportunities for the clients. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not buying stocks, but if every billionaire and millionaire that I'm working with has investment accounts, I have to start thinking about, well, what does it look like for me to buy stocks? Well, how do I buy stocks? Well, what is this? And so I started to do what I saw Wall Street clients doing just because I was watching every single day. And I saw a pattern of just like, if they had cash, it was our job to make sure it was invested. So it's like, well, I can't just sit on cash. I have to invest too.
Did you ever struggle with leaving the world of banking or leaving Wall Street? Did you ever struggle with how your identity might change? Because let's say people then started to refer, that's Ashley who works at XYZ, or that's Ashley who's a banker or an asset manager, and then leaving that world, especially when you start at firms that are like pretty high up. Sometimes it feels like, and I remember when I left, I felt like, the banking was a part of my identity, and I felt like it was so hard for me to leave because I felt like that was my identity, and I liked the prestige of it, for example.
Yeah, so interesting. So yes, all the way. I am Ashley Fox. Hi, I work it was literally my identity, but it was also because I had a mask because I wanted to hide who I really was. And I needed accolades. I needed things to validate my existence. Interestingly enough, the moment I left Wall Street, within 3 months, I lost everything. So I had $30,000 when I quit. I lost everything. I kicked out my apartment. I had to move back to Philly, and I slept on my parents' couch for 2 years. What that did now, when you remove the mask and you remove the identity, you now have to be your authentic self. So now I can't hide behind the money because I don't have any. I can't hide behind the job because I don't have the job. Well, who are you, right? And I think it took some time for me to really understand the value that I brought to the world if you removed all the accolades. And and then also I say too, like sometimes when you hit rock bottom, the only direction you can go is forward. The beauty of that experience is what it did, it helped me understand the people that I serve. Because when I left Wall Street, I became a financial advisor before I started Empify. And I'm sitting in meetings with clients, and I'm working with now the everyday person. So I'm talking to everyday person, but they're not implementing what I'm teaching them. And I'm like, I don't understand. I can see you have some money. Why are we not executing on these things? And that's when I realized I was actually too smart for my audience. It was also, Wall Street also intimidated people. And that's when I learned that I had to take it a step back and speak into people and speak their language. Not my Wall Street finance girl language, but speak into their language and understand their thoughts, their feelings, and their fears. And I learned more about that when I became the clients that I serve. So I know what it feels like to have a bunch of bill collectors call me. I know what it feels like to not have money. I know what it feels like to get evicted from a place. So now the doubt, the fear, the worry, the not enoughness that comes with a lot of people with money, I know exactly what that feels like. And I know exactly what it takes to come out of that too. So now I understand where you are, I can meet you where you are, but I also have been in the bank accounts of billionaires. So I also know what's possible for you too. So the beauty of that was I learned more about myself and my true authentic self when you took all the fancy stuff away from me and I didn't have those things to identify. And I realized I was always chasing money because that's what I thought made me worthy. And when you lose it, it's kind of like, well, who are you? And I kind of had to build myself up and my confidence back up from there because now I'm teaching the subject of money and I don't even have money.
What was the rationale then? What was your game, when you left, what was your game plan? Because if you're saying, okay, you're in the bank account of these millionaires and these billionaires and you're realizing that they're doing things quite differently, I think one of the things that you also hear people say is, especially when you look at your seniors, right, and you realize, okay, they are not on the trajectory of these people, it then pushes them into entrepreneurship because one of the things that they do realize is that actually a lot of these clients have their own business or have family businesses. So was your game plan leaving, I'm going to become an entrepreneur? How did being a financial advisor come into it?
So no, there was no game plan at all. I had $30,000. I was going to follow my dreams, and I was just going to teach the world about money. Back then, it was Twitter I was on all the time, and people were like interested in the things I was teaching. But when I left Wall Street, I had my security licenses. And so I was approached by individuals who wanted me to have my license with that broker dealer. But I loved it because I had access to a ton of companies and their products and services. And I had the freedom to be able to provide the products and services in the way I wanted to. So I was an independent financial advisor. And what that did, one, people's eyes were on me because I quit my job in 2013. And back then, working from home, traveling the world, leaving your job, that wasn't a thing the way that it is now. So people were following my story. And I had a big event in Philadelphia wanting to teach financial education. I wanted literally to bring Wall Street to the world. I did not know how. I just knew why. And I knew it was going to be Ashley Fox. And I was like, okay, we're going to create something. Well, what's it going to be called? And that's when I came up with the word Empify. So I was sitting in Harlem, and I mapped out all these words to describe what I wanted to give the world. And two of the words were empower and modify. And so I found this random website, and I put all the words on the website, and it created words for me because I learned that Verizon is vertical and horizontal put together. And I was like, oh, maybe I can make something up, because building wealth isn't just about teaching the world about money, right? You can learn all you want, but that doesn't mean you're going to be able to implement it. So it's like, okay, what does it look like if I give education? But what good is education if people aren't given inspiration? And so that's where the empower part comes from. And once you have the empowerment, you have the education, you then create a shift within you, which is where modify comes from. So Empify is the merging of the word empower and modify, because it really isn't about money. It's about shifting the minds and hearts of people to become a version of themselves they've never been, to create the life that they deserve, but may not have been given the tools and resources to do it. So I didn't have a game plan. I had a word. I made an LLC. We didn't make any money until like 4 years later when I created Empify, and I randomly became a financial advisor. But it was a stepping stone to give the audience I wanted to serve Wall Street knowledge. And I went on to build a financial advisory business, but I was the bridge between the products and services and the customers. And for me, it was a step in the right direction because it allowed me to sit with people, to talk with people, to learn how to communicate with people, to ultimately get them to produce a result. And so that led me to Empify, but I had a little pit stop for like 3-4 years of being a financial advisor because I already had my security licenses. And so companies were paying me to introduce their products and services to the audience that I wanted to educate.
Right. So was that also between 2013 and 2017?
Yep.
Because, okay.
Yeah.
So is that how you were surviving when Empify wasn't making money?
No, Empify was just a word. It was just a word.
Okay.
We didn't start making money till 2017. So I was a financial advisor for 3.5 years and I wasn't happy again. So by this point, moved out my parents' house, built a 6-figure business, but I wasn't happy again. One, because I felt like I was here to serve the world. And when you're an advisor, I could only talk to 12 people a day. I counted.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can I reach massive amounts of people if I physically can only talk to 12 people a day? And that's a day if I use every single hour that I could to educate people. And I also realized that I was making a lot of companies money who would have never talked to the customers I brought to them. And I also knew that those customers would have never gone to those companies. So I saw how powerful what I was doing was, but as an advisor, you're more of the implementation where I got joy out of the education. So when I got to that point, same thing on Wall Street, I just wasn't fulfilled anymore. And it was like, there has to be something more to life. What is it? And people were watching me on social media and they said, I want you to come teach at this school. And so I'm like, okay, so I pitched this idea. I actually didn't even pitch. One of my really good friends pitched Empify and the vision for Empify. And like, they were like, well, you want to try this out on our students? And I said, yeah. So for a year, we were implementing financial programs in middle schools and high schools. So I was teaching it for free, building a curriculum. And in 2017, we got a contract with a school district in Philadelphia. And our program was in 26 schools in Philly. And that's kind of what Empify took off. But it took me to learn how to educate, speak to my audience, understand what the world does and does not know, understand the feelings and thoughts and fears that they have, to then figure out, okay, I actually don't just want to teach adults because, well, who's educating the children? Because they're going to grow up to make the same mistakes that I made, that their parents are making. And so we shifted and went B2B as we started Empify. And I started to teach kids in school systems. And but that was the first time Empify, what I like to call like the Harvard of finance, the education that we were building for the world. That's when that started in 2017. The idea was in 2013. It was in my heart, but I couldn't articulate it to the world.
So what are some of those core fears and feelings that you say that Empify is addressing? Like, what have you noticed are the things that are holding people back?
The biggest thing, I just think their mindset. I think when I think about what Empify does, it's about pulling out the inner greatness of people to show them what's possible when you empower them and give them the education. So it's shifting their mindset of, I'm not enough. Shifting their mindset around, I'm behind. Shifting their mindset of, I feel like I'm gambling or I'm scared or I don't have a lot of money. Breaking down all those mental barriers that is stopping us from doing something that is actually simple, but something we've been afraid to do because we might not feel like we belong in that room or we didn't grow up around that to be able to believe it's something that we can do. So we spend more time helping the world unlearn and then relearn a new way of life. We just so happen to teach you how to buy a stock and financial education. But what good is it? What good is it if we're teaching you how to invest, but you don't feel deserving of it? So that's where the empowerment part comes in. We're going to get the result for you. We're going to push you. You're going to accomplish something. But I need you to also believe that it's possible for you, despite who you are, despite what you look like, despite where you're from, or despite the mistakes you've made in the past. Breaking all that down to show you we're going to be by your side and get it done. Create the environment for you to get it done, but also help you produce a result so that you can start to see that you can get it done and you've been more than capable the entire time.
If you're enjoying this content, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And if you would like to become an international property investor in Dubai or in the UK, the link to book a free consultation will be in the description box below. If you're not quite ready to invest yet, check out the affordable video courses that will also be linked in the description box below. And if you would like to relocate to Dubai, set up your business in Dubai, or anything else related to relocating to Dubai, check out www.theprofessionalnetwork.com.
That's amazing. And Empify has made it to the Inc. 5000 list as one of the fastest growing private companies in the country, right? Yes. That is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
What do you think you guys have done right that has led to that success?
I wouldn't say, okay, what we have done right. I think the biggest thing, because people have asked me this before, and I sat down and just thought about, like, what did we do different? I think the biggest thing for me is Empify wasn't created to make money. We just found a way to do it. The other thing is I just think we never gave up. In every moment of us, so Inc. 5000, they look at your revenue growth over the past 3 years, and I think about just what I've gone through over the past 3 years. I can't say that it's been easy. I can't say that I have a rule book. I can't say that I have a business plan because I have none of that. But every day I woke up to do it again. Every day I woke up and learned through the lessons that I was going through, to learn through the pain I was going through. And I think the mental fortitude for myself, my team, to do something that's so much bigger than us. It's like the pain that I'm going through, how big is that compared to me financially empowering the world? I think me financially empowering the world means so much more than this problem that I'm going through, this struggle that I'm going through. And I think when you create something that is so much bigger than you and so much more impactful than you, the problems that you have are so minute compared to the impact that you'll make. So I think the desire to impact the results that we've created kept us going, even when there were moments where we should have quit.
And then how did you prepare, going from being like this finance girly, how did you prepare your mind for transitioning into being a CEO and then being able to deal with things at that level versus being an analyst and having, I don't know, whoever it is, the MD or whatever, kind of guiding what you had to do?
I think I've been winging it up until this point. I think this is the first time in life that I actually know what it means to be a CEO, and I still think I don't know. I'm still learning every single day. But I do surround myself around coaches, mentors, people, peers who have lived the life that I'm living, who have lived the life I'm trying to live, and who understand the vision of what I'm trying to create. So I'd be lying if I tell you that I actually know and like there's some cheat code, but I can say that my desire to constantly improve, my desire to grow and understand me to be the best version of me has always been my number one priority. So with that mindset, I'm seeking out answers. I'm looking for answers. I'm looking for support, and I'm allowing myself to receive the help that I need to become the person that I've never become before, but I'm destined to be her.
Do you feel like now you're on your way to being the client on the other side of the table?
It's so crazy. Yes. It's so crazy. They actually just, they're actually about to open a new headquarters of where I used to work on Park Avenue. Absolutely. That was always the plan. Like, it was always like, when I get to be that client, I'm going to walk in those doors and be the client of the company I used to work for. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. I wouldn't even go to any other financial institution just because yeah, it would be a full circle moment. But that was always the plan. Always the plan.
I love that. And with everything that you know now and everything that you've done and everything that you've seen, how do you define wealth?
Great question. I think wealth is a holistic experience of having the possibility to do whatever it is your heart desires in the most healthiest, wealthiest. I don't know. Okay, this is a great question. Let me think about this, because the more that I evolve as a person, I think wealth is about having the options, the mental peace, and the freedom to be who you want to be when you want to be that person. Mm-hmm. And I think that's not just from a money perspective, because there are people who are wealthy who are not happy. What good is it for me to have money and I'm physically out of shape, or I'm physically not healthy, or I'm mentally, or my relationships are not healthy? So I think from a holistic perspective, it's about allowing yourself to have the opportunity and the freedom to create the life that you want, the money that you want, the circle you want, the health that you want, without any mental limitations to do it. Yeah. For somebody who always uses that word, I got to think of. But yeah, that from my heart, that was what the answer just gave me.
No, and that's great. And I love that. And I love that you mentioned that it's holistic. So if 25-year-old Ashley came to you and said to your current self, listen, I just want to get really wealthy, what would you say to her? Like, what would you say? These are the things that you should be doing. These are the things that you shouldn't be doing. This is the best kept secret that the wealthy don't tell you. What are those things that you'd want to share?
I would say, 1, make the commitment to pay yourself and invest in your idea or somebody else's idea. That's the biggest thing I saw on Wall Street. Some of them may have worked somewhere. They either invested in someone else's company or they invested in their own company. Like, that is the key to building wealth, from what Wall Street exposed me to and when I saw how they created the money they had. The other thing I would say is you want to get that mental support. So whether it is, I have a spiritual advisor, an executive coach, you have to be so good at understanding you and loving on you, protecting you, showing up for you so that you can show up your best for the world. I probably would have went to therapy a little bit earlier if somebody would have told me that, just to prepare me for what comes. Because a lot of people want to have a lot of money, and that sounds great, but you become a different type of person and have a different level of responsibility when you have a certain amount of money. Like, the more money I make, the more it's just so much going on, and you have to be able to manage you, balance you, your money, your goals, your dreams. And if you have to start paying people, it's just a job within itself. And I think you need the mental stillness and a desire to constantly evolve, because the more you grow, your bank account grows. So if you focus on growing you, everything else around you will start to grow at the same rate that you're growing. So I would say therapy. And I would have told myself to invest just a little bit sooner and make the commitment to do it and not give up, even if I felt like I wasn't starting with a lot of money.
There's something that you said, because I saw a post, maybe you posted maybe yesterday or the day before yesterday, and you were saying that you wasn't paying yourself out of your business.
Right.
And can you talk a little bit more about that? Because they probably don't know what I'm talking about.
So there was a point. So I thought in business, you just put all your money back into the business so that it could grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what I was doing, not realizing that I was subconsciously not paying myself because I didn't think I was good enough to pay myself. One, because I wasn't used to having money. So it's so much easier if the business outside of me is making a lot of money versus Ashley having a lot of money in her bank account. So as time progressed, I would have like $100 in my bank account, but I would pay out thousands of dollars in bonuses, but I would feel weird paying myself, even though I ran the company, even though I dedicate all these hours. And my spiritual advisor made me realize that me not paying myself was an act of not loving myself. And like, it's like, how can you show up and give your all for Empify, yet Empify can't pay you? And she was like, if you treated it like a job, you would expect a bonus from your job because you're giving your all to this business. And I realized that Empify and Ashley were the same person, when in reality, there's Ashley Marie Fox and there's the company that she runs. So when the two had no separate identity. And then my coach also told me, you're going through all this stress. You're dealing with all these things and you honestly have nothing to show for it. And it was like, wow, you're right. And so it just wasn't a balanced seesaw. And so he said that to me and it hit me a little bit. But then when he told me if something ever happens to Empify, who's going to take care of it? I was like, well, this is my baby. I'm going to take care of it. He's like, well, you can't take care of it if you don't have any money. How can you save your own company and you don't even have anything? And it's just like, oh my gosh, you're right. So in those moments, I realized I was not paying myself because I was not used to having money. And nobody really talks about sometimes we put ourselves in a position not to create the money that we want because we're so used and there's a level of comfort of having the money that we have. But then also when you get to a point where you create the money, you don't know what to do with it because you've never had it before. So part of me is like, when I had money, when I had a job, I got kicked out my apartment. I lost everything. What if you give me money and I don't know what to do with it? What if you give me money and I get kicked out again? Like there were years I was so afraid to pay rent because I felt like I was going to get kicked out. But all it is PTSD. And so learning that, yes, while that may have been something you experienced, we're not going to focus on that energy. What if you can pay your rent? What if you can pay yourself millions of dollars? Imagine what kind of company you would have if you're able to pay yourself millions of dollars and run your business and it can still thrive. So it put a different mental shift within me because I was afraid to pay me because I was uncomfortable with having money. It was okay if Empify had millions of dollars, but Ashley having money, it made me feel really uncomfortable. But yet I can sit and call myself a $1 billion CEO, but I'm afraid to pay myself $20,000. But I'll pay somebody else $20,000. And so I just realized it was just a disconnect. And so I started to pay myself consistently and it felt very uncomfortable. And so I got to a point where I wanted to normalize. I get a paycheck too. I get paid my salary too. I can get bonuses too. And there were points in my business where I actually had to save my business. And luckily I did have money to be able to pay Empify's bills. Just kind of like your parent. If if your child, when I got evicted, my parents were there to support me. I moved back into their house. What good is it if I don't have my own home to take care of my child if something ever happens to it? So when I thought about that, it was like, well, if Empify ever needs me, I should be the first person that they could call to be able to bail them out. The same way my family was able to help me in certain places in life.
I want to ask you two things on that. One, as you have elevated financially and your business has had success, you've had success. Have you dealt with other things in your life shifting that you didn't expect to? For example, friendships, maybe family? Because I think as I'm starting to see my peers and just some of the issues that they are dealing with that you don't expect when you say, I want to have money, there are other things that come up that may not necessarily be to do with the business, but just things around you that change. And how have you been able to deal with those things?
I think it's a ongoing process. I think as I've evolved financially, it's so funny. I actually saw a post yesterday about normalizing going to an event and saying, I brought my food, going somewhere and saying, I already worked out, going somewhere and saying, I'm going to sleep early. And it's crazy because in those moments, I feel very uncomfortable talking about the discipline in me. So because most people are not like that, but it's a form of self-love owning the fact that you are disciplined. So I sometimes struggle with being so different than who I used to be and leaving people behind because I'm not that girl anymore. And the interesting thing is when I become aware of that thought, it's like, would you rather be her Ashley or the Ashley you're becoming? I choose the Ashley I want to become any day. And because I've practiced taking care of me and showing up for me first, it's easier to choose me versus choosing someone I was previously in a relationship or choosing certain friends. And I'm just also a big proponent of if it's not helping me become the version of me that I want to become, then it's technically slowing me down. So sometimes I'll be like, if I eat this, is this helping me become a $1 billion CEO? If the answer is yes, I'm with it. If not, then I don't need to indulge in it. It does hurt. And we have to also address the fact that there's mourning in letting go of who you used to be. So there were versions of me where the old Ashley had to die in order for the new Ashley to be born. But there are plenty of times where I've outgrown friends, I've outgrown family members. And it's not that I don't love them or it's not that I don't care. It's just, is this going to help me become the woman I want to be? Because if I'm not choosing me, what am I doing this for? That means I'm living for other people. And I don't want to do that. But I think at every level of life, you have to deal with that in some capacity. There were points in my life where my body rejected food, friends, relationship, everything was kind of stripped from me. But 3 years later, I now see this is why my body won't let me eat candy every day because I live a very intense life. I exude a lot of energy doing what I'm doing. My body needs the best foods possible to perform at my optimal performance. How about I own that because I chose this life. I chose to be this Ashley. I didn't know it didn't come with not eating junk food. I didn't know that it came with having to wake up early, having to work out every day. But I evolved into that woman and I wouldn't change her for the world. But sometimes I do miss the Ashley that could eat whatever she wanted, drink all the time and have fun. But in reality, that's not the life that I chose. That's not the woman I wanted to be. I just didn't know what I had to let go of to become that version.
And on the back of that, how do you also make sure that you stay grounded? Because I find that sometimes when you want to make sure that the people around you reflect where you want to go, and if where you want to go is pretty ambitious, let's say you want to become a millionaire, billionaire, you're not necessarily around... You hear people say, maybe people say this with influencers or like other guests that we've had on, like, you don't have a good grip on reality, or like, you don't know what the cost of bread is, or like because you're operating around so many high level people, you're not really grounded. So is there something that you do to make sure that you remain grounded, or do you care to remain grounded?
I think the answer is yes and no, because that's a good point. Sometimes it's a fine line between I could be too far into it, where it's like, this isn't who I am, this doesn't serve me, this is actually draining my energy, I actually need to leave. But then there's also this elevated Ashley that I know I deserve to be, and I've been dreaming of this girl, so let yourself be who you want to be. But I think it's just having a healthy balance and having people who keep me grounded, but I don't stay there forever. Or sometimes my team helps me. I think when you build a team, you hire people who are great at what they know how to do. And I'm fine with not knowing what they're great at, because I trust that they are, but I trust that they can help me evolve too. So I think the people in your life matter. I think the experiences that you have. But sometimes I just have to accept, I just live a different life, and I'm okay with that. But I am the girl that I used to dream of. So why would I sacrifice anything else? But I think having a healthy balance, I wouldn't even say a healthy balance, having core people in your life and staying connected, because I could be too disconnected from the people that I serve. So I think it's important to understand, but also building a team and having a team or friends and family support that help you remain connected to the world. But I also didn't work this hard to stay where I used to be either. So part of me is like, if this is how I like to travel, this is what I like to do, then that is okay. And build a life that way. And if someone has an opinion of it, they're entitled to it. But if I'm happy, that's all that matters to me too. So.
I love that. A lot of the reasons why people, let's say, watch this podcast, for example, is because not only do they want to build wealth for themselves, they want to build generational wealth and be able to pass that down. But not a lot of us know necessarily how to effectively do that and actually pass it down in a tax efficient way. Can you share any insight that you have on like how that is done, how that should be structured?
So I think one of the best ways is to get really clear on who you're passing what down to. So when my dad passed away, he had everything organized. He knew exactly what he was doing, who he was leaving it to. It was structured and it was clear. Now, granted, I realize my dad is a very unique man. Not everybody is like that, but he also worked in law enforcement. So he didn't have a fancy job. He didn't have a bunch of rich, friends or family members. He was that person in his family to effectively build wealth and properly pass it down to us. And to this day, myself, my brother, my sister, my mother will have money for the rest of our life, right? So when that happened to me and I became the recipient of generational wealth, it set the standard of how I need to have it. So granted, I was passing down money, but mine wasn't organized. At one point in my life, if something ever happened to me, if you didn't understand what I had, you wouldn't know what to do. So the first thing you want to do is take inventory of who you're leaving what to, right? So you may have children where this child is irresponsible. This child, if you left them money, they would go blow it. This child is a responsible one. So one, own the fact, own the people, own who is supposed to get what, and own and just accept who they are, right? Knowing that, then you build a game plan. So if I pass my house down to my child, will they have the money to handle the taxes? If not, what will happen? So being very strategic and really sitting back and envisioning, if something were to happen to me, what is supposed to happen to what I'm leaving my family, and what are they really going to do with it? One of the things that I do, there's a couple ways you can, but what I like to do is like shoot a video. So like, God forbid something happens to me, there's a video you're going to watch. Hey, this is Ashley. I know you're crying. I know you're sad. I love you. But here's where everything is. You can find my life insurance policies over here. The beneficiaries are listed here. Here's what I need you to do. You have to call my attorney because I have a trust. In the trust, you're going to see these instructions. You're not able to get this money until this point. You have to be able to do X, Y, Z to do this. You're going to get, so I have a trust that also lays out all of my instructions. One, because I'm the finance girl in the family. When my dad passed away, I handled all the finances for my family, but I was the money girl. Not everybody has an Ashley Fox in their family, but it requires you to make an investment in, one, understanding what you're passing down, two, having a will, having a trust in place, because what you don't want is your family fighting. You don't want people feeling like they're entitled. You can make it very crystal clear and outline it, but you have to have a plan. And I always tell people, you didn't work this hard for the government to take all of your money. And even if you don't have a lot of money, start by just getting life insurance, right? Start by saying, I may not have been passed down wealth, but I'm going to make sure that my family is going to be passed down something outside of just generational debt and generational bad habits. So it's getting to a space in life where you made the commitment to build wealth while you're living, but make the commitment to build wealth when you're no longer here. Because if not, we're going to have to do it all over again. And that's the one thing I saw on Wall Street. They never had to do it all over again. The moment they brought their money to the bank, they automatically had to set up a meeting with an estate planner to make sure that they protected all that they've built, and they dispersed it across families, charities, however they deem fit. And because I saw them do that, it was like, I need life insurance. When I left my job, they took the life insurance with me. That's when I realized when your job gives you life insurance, it's not permanent. You got to work at the job in order to get the life insurance. But it's like, if something ever happened to me, you're left with student loan debt and paying for my funeral. There's nothing there. So let me get more life insurance in case I do want to have children. So having that future-driven, family-driven mentality has to also become a standard, because it's not about having money now. It's about having money generation after generation. So we can start saying, hey, I'm the wealth builder of my family. We don't need a president. We don't need our family. We don't need anybody but the person in the mirror who can change the dynamic of your family's financial legacy.
That's so good. If there were 3 assets that you would say everyone should have in their portfolio, what would be your top 3 investments?
3
assets or 3 investments that everyone should be making. What would be your top 3?
Well, I can tell you what I have, but from a wealthy person perspective.
Yes.
Wealthy people always, I can give it to you for this way. Wealthy people always have marketable securities. Marketable securities are stocks, bonds, mutual funds, things that you can invest in, but can be turned into cash quickly. They also have alternative investments. Those are things like companies, like private companies, and real estate, where you cannot sell it automatically. It'll take some time, but with time, it could grow in value. So if you buy a property, you got to hold it for some time in order for it to really grow in value, but you can't sell it and turn it into cash immediately. Or same thing with a private business. If somebody were to invest in my company, Empify, we might not flip your money tomorrow, but in 10 years, you could potentially make a bigger return. And then also cash. And so I would say those are the 3 things. When they came to work with us, it was these 3 these 3 assets that we made sure they had their money allocated. So alternative investments, marketable securities, and cash. And cash was 10%, by the way, of the 100%. I want to make that clear.
Most of it needs to be actually invested.
Correct, yes.
What advice would you give to people who are hoarders?
I used to be like that too. I would say your desire to hold is coming from a place of lack, because there's a fear that if you let go, you won't be able to create more. So just be intentional of the intention behind what you're doing and why you're doing it. I would say trust that when you make the investment and you let go, you will open yourself up to receive more, because you're now setting the intention, I'm already covered. I'm good. I got this. But the more you hold and the more you protect, the more you live in fear. And fear is not going to create wealth. The mindset of abundance is. The mindset is already mine is. So I think switching your energy and knowing that I can do this, it is possible, but allow yourself to receive. But by holding, you're not allowing yourself to receive. You're living in fear because you're afraid to lose it. And the more you focus on losing, the more you're going to lose.
I think there'll be some people who need to hear that. So we are going to be moving on to the Wealth Voice segment. And this is basically where one of the listeners sends in a dilemma and they want to get your perspective on what you think they should do. So I'm going to read. So this person says 70% of my portfolio is in stocks and 10% is in a CD, which is a certificate of deposit, which matures next month. I currently have about 6 months of emergency fund, but want to make it 1 year when my CD matures. My financial advisor suggests I put it in my brokerage account instead. 10% of my assets I am saving up for real estate. What do you think I should do?
Okay, so I would say invest as much as you can. When you think about the economy, when you think about savings and interest rates dropping, you're not going to be able to save your way to wealth. So my recommendation, I agree with the financial advisor. Start to treat your brokerage account as if it were the place that you have your money sit, where it can potentially grow, but it's not just sitting in cash. I would talk to your financial advisor about what types of investments you'll put in your brokerage account, because you can invest in dividend-paying investments, which could yield you a better return than your CDs. You can have some growth stocks in there. So I would talk to your financial advisor about the different types of investments, but I'm all for investing before saving, especially because you have a good amount of money set aside. Why not put your money to work, give it a job description, and allow it to work for you over time?
I love that job description. That's good. I don't think I have anything to add to that. So, okay, so we're going to move on to the quick fire money questions. 3 questions, and you just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
So the first one is, what is the best investment you've ever made?
Therapy.
Ooh, why do you say that?
Because at a point in my life, I had no idea who I was, why I did the things that I did, what scared me. I just was haphazardly living without intention. The more I learned about Ashley, the more I dug to the root of Ashley to get clear on why Ashley is who she is, why she does the things that she does, let me know that the story that I was carrying in my mind wasn't my story. It was my childhood story, it was my parents' story, it was society's story. And I realized that at a certain point in my life, I wanted to create my own story. Like living in fear, thinking you have to work on Wall Street, you have to have a job, you have to have money. That was my dad's story. So that's his story, but what is Ashley's story? Ashley believes she can make money, change the world, but she doesn't have to work on Wall Street. She doesn't have to have a secure job. She can bet on herself and be able to create the life that she wants, because that is Ashley's story. So I think going to therapy helped me learn me better so that I can show up better for myself and for the world, and understanding what programming I had about my life, love, money, that was holding me back from getting the things that I said I wanted to get.
Do you think some people should go see a therapist before they go see a financial advisor?
I think most people don't need a financial advisor. I think from what I've seen, people rely on a financial advisor because they don't want to do the work themselves. And then when something bad happens, we blame the financial advisor because we don't know where our money is. I'm a firm believer, you can't pay somebody to do something and you have no idea what you're doing. People have financial advisors and don't even know how to read a statement, don't even know what a stock is. That's not okay. So I believe that you can go to therapy and learn financial education at the exact same time, because as you grow, your bank account will grow, and nobody can understand and love and show up for you better than you. But sometimes we have to learn how to love ourselves again, because we've been beating up on ourselves all these years, expecting the best out of ourselves, yet we're the one doing the yelling, we're the one doing the judging, talking down on ourselves. How do you think that's going to happen and transpire when it comes to your money? So if we focus on you, we learn how to fix you and help you, it'll show up in your bank account, it'll show up in your career, it'll show up in your love life, it'll show up in your personal life. And I learned that when I focused on helping Ashley and showing up for Ashley, everything just started to change for me.
That's so good. What is the biggest money mistake that you've made?
I don't think there's any money mistake that I've made. I think there are mistakes I've made with money that needed to teach me a lesson to help me become a better person with money. But when I think back on how negligent I was, or the things that I bought, or just the mistakes I've made, I don't think they were mistakes. I think I needed that to help me understand and learn more as a person. So I wouldn't say, I wouldn't even...
Is there any example that you can give us that at the time was like, but then in hindsight, it was like, actually, I needed that?
When I left Wall Street, I had $30,000. I had more money than I ever had in life. It was in my brokerage account. I quit my job. I traveled to south of France and Italy, rented a yacht. And then 2 months later, I got kicked out of my apartment. But in that moment, I realized I was still living and operating like the Ashley who had a job, because no one told me when you run a business, you don't get paid every 2 weeks. It actually takes a long time to make money in business. So I needed that to humble me, take me back to reality so that I could start from ground zero to build the company that I created now. I needed that experience to be able to understand why people spend all the money. I literally was just shopping. My first check on Wall Street, I got a signing bonus. I bought a Prada bag before I got an apartment. But I now see I needed that to validate my self-worth, because I didn't think I was good enough showing up for the world. So I could say I made a lot of mistakes, but I wouldn't change it because I now got the lesson that I was supposed to get as a result of making that mistake.
That's good. And then finally, what is one piece of advice you'd give to someone who is trying to build wealth?
Start today, open a brokerage account, buy a stock in a company that has been profitable, in a company that you use and cannot live without, because chances are if you are a loyal customer, so are other people. But get in the habit of paying you by owning companies that make all their money off of you.
That's so good. So if the people wanted to find you, wanted to find out more about Empify, where should they go?
So go to empify.com, so empify.com. We have free classes. Our virtual summit is coming up. We have a ton of free resources helping the beginner investor, whether you're a work professional or entrepreneur, learn how to build wealth from start to finish. On social media, it is also Empify. And my social media is Ashley M. Fox. So on Instagram, you'll see _Ashley M. Fox. YouTube, Ashley M. Fox. LinkedIn, Ashley M. Fox. TikTok, the Ashley M. Fox. But I am all over the internet. We are here to support you, guide you, and help you start exactly where you are to get you to where you need to go.
Amazing. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.